Here's part 2 of our Stress and the Nervous System mini-series. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Minke. This is Minke Wellness. And in this little mini-series, we're going over the first part. We did the acetylcholine and epinephrine neurotransmitters. How do we work with the neurotransmitter system? Just a little bit about that. Now we're going to talk about, kind of take a step backward from the structure, from the little, micro level, and take it out to a little bit more, a little bigger part of the picture. And that is the sympathetic nervous system versus the parasympathetic. And you can kind of work with the same kind of idea of these neurotransmitters, but now we get into the actual nerves themselves. How are they functioning? So the parasympathetic and sympathetic. Now, you don't have to worry too much about all that, but you might have heard these words bantered around, so let me just explain a little bit. These are actually two parts of the nervous system. You have to understand that they both get stimulated, okay? So in other words, this is very important to understand that you can stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system and you stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, and they are kind of antagonistic to each other. So the sympathetic nervous system is driven by the adrenaline, okay, and that's what gets us going. The parasympathetic actually shuts down the sympathetic. So if we don't get the parasympathetic nervous system stimulated, then we have a trouble shutting down the sympathetic, okay? So obviously we can affect the sympathetic nervous system over here by how much adrenaline we're running, right? This is our adrenal system. Adrenaline going, crank, 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 or we can learn to calm down the adrenal system or not stimulate it. But we can actually learn to actually engage the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, this really comes down to, in what the focus I'm going to take is a few habits and structure, okay? So the structure comes in that the parasympathetic nervous system is housed in the neck. So all this comes down to, if you got a tight neck, you could be negatively impacting your ability to shut down the sympathetic nervous system. It goes like this. So the neck and actually on the tailbone are the areas where the nerves feed out from the parasympathetic nervous system. So if those get tight and blocked and restricted, okay, if I got a tight neck and tight tailbone, anyone relate to tight neck and tight hips or tailbone back down here in the sacrum? Okay, so that's a very, very common problem, especially in our seated, very sedentary, lifestyle. We're sitting all the time. We're crunching our SI joints and our sacrum. We're sitting there, with our neck like this, tippy tapping away at our devices and our phone. We're always looking down, cranking out the neck. Not only does that impact the thyroid, we don't get good circulation to the thyroid, which of course is part of our base metabolism and all that, and that's a whole different discussion. But we actually can potentially compromise the nerve function, the nerve flow, okay? The spine, we'll talk more in a different series about the spine and making sure the nerves flow out of the spine. But if this is all cranked up and compromised, then we're not getting the nerve flow out of the neck. Well, the consequence of that is we're not allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to function. And the parasympathetic nervous system dampens down, calms down the sympathetic, okay? So I wish we had different words for all this, because, those don't mean anything in English. Sympathetic means someone I have sympathy for. Well, that's not, I don't know where the words come from. I don't know what the origins are. But, parasympathetic and sympathetic, the bottom line is this is a calming system and a stimulating system, okay? The parasympathetic is calming, sympathetic stimulating. So if we are tight and cranked up in our neck and tight and cranked down in our sacrum, we're going to have trouble engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, there's a lot of different times when this engages. Getting good sleep, later on in the sleep cycle, you end up engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. Relaxation, like massage therapy, will help engage the sympathetic nervous system and disengage the parasympathetic and sympathetic, right? So we help relax the body with massage. So there are some things that you can do directly, basically massage, staying loose, and you can work on your neck, right? I mean, this is something with essential oils. You can take your massage oils, essential oils, Cool Azul, sports gel, whatever, any of these, peppermint oil. We've got all kinds of tools available to us to rub the neck and I've done videos on self-massage in the neck and all that. So you can, that's not a difficult thing. It's not rocket science, but it's very important to do if you're having trouble calming down the nervous system, if you're up at night, all cranked up, then do some deep breathing, get the oils on the neck and on the sacrum, okay? You might actually need to go and get professional help, even get some craniosacral therapy, which is therapy designed to kind of open up these systems, and of course works with the dural tube and the whole spine and all that, so there's a lot more to it. But that is a great system to engage in, and you might need a couple, 4 or 5 sessions to get the body unwound and learn how to relax. I do structural body work in the form of Aston-Patterning, and so the Aston-Patterning is another kind of modality that can help get everything aligned, get everything moving and flowing well. So these are important things to do. Raindrop therapy can open up the body, get the oils on the spine, do a hot oil treatment for the spine. So these are all things that we can approach to make a difference in this overall level, the stress system that's going up. We've got to learn to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. The disengaging the sympathetic nervous system is a matter of what kind of stress habits we're creating. So we're going to talk a little bit more next time about how the brain can actually create its own stress response, and it does that internally. But basically, when we're talking about the structure of the body, all the center part of the spine, again, is this sympathetic nervous system. And if those are cranked up and irritated, a lot of this irritation in the nervous system can come from inflammation. So it's important to talk. These are all physical things I'm talking about. I'm not talking about having neurological problems or any of the rest of it. I'm talking about just the average normal person is compromising, is in a compromised state in the nervous system because of the level of inflammation we're running, the lack of nutrients absorbing into the body because of our bad diet and our stress level in general. I don't know if I mentioned last time that stress shuts down digestion, so we're not breaking down our protein, and therefore our amino acids can't be absorbed because they're not even in amino acid form. They're still in chunks of protein. Okay, so we have issues with regard to how many layers of things that we can affect. Someone who's if you're not as healthy in your nervous system as you want to be, then you can look at the different kinds of things that you can do. And you might do one thing and it says, oh, well, I didn't get my result, therefore I'll try something different. You might have to do 10 things simultaneously. It sounds like a lot, but each one of these things, little bit at a time, contribute and bring the stress level down, bring up the activation of the nervous system in an appropriate way. So keep in mind that all of these may be factors that are happening all at the same time, okay? We have a lot of different approaches that we can take. Again, so we need to learn how to engage. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit of breathing because breathing is so powerful for the nervous system. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of breathing and how to engage that. So again, I want to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's going to be physically housed in the neck and the sacrum. So if I were to breathe in and pay attention to my neck, I could even put my hand here and do a little rubbing just in precursor, just to try to relax and massage. So I'm going to breathe in. I'm going to imagine just love and peace coming in and soaking my neck, okay? Right? And imagine my neck being loose, and imagine the nerve flowing out of my neck. All nice, good flowing, free, open nerves flowing out of my neck and going out to the rest of my body. And I can do the same thing I can do that all the way down the spine, but I'm going to focus on the parasympathetic nervous system. So go down to the sacrum, which is that triangular bone at the bottom of the spine that forms the tailbone at the tip. Okay, so that whole plate there is the sacrum. I'm going to breathe down into the sacrum. And again, I'm going to breathe light and love and peace into my sacrum, down my tailbone. And I'm going to imagine that nerve flowing out. And so just opening up, imagine using my conscious participation. Of course, as I add oils to that, take some peppermint oil, and I can, do a few drops of oil on the back of my neck that gives me the little tingle and stimulation of where I'm going to do my breathing. And imagine that tingle coming in and opening up all the nerve endings. And do the same thing on my sacrum. It's hard to reach that right now with my clothes on. So I've got the parasympathetic, at least structurally, I've got the parasympathetic in mind, right? I'm making that connection. Now, I could imagine colors. You could say, okay, the parasympathetic is very soothing, so it's a blue, and so I'm going to breathe in to my spine, and I'm going to imagine that blue and going out and telling the rest of the nervous system, telling the rest of the body to calm down, right? So I'm going to imagine that blue moving out of the sacrum and the neck. With every breath, it gets further out, further out, further out. And then there's the sympathetic, which maybe we could call red because it's very stimulating. And so you can pick your own color, but so I'm going to calm down that red. It's pulsing and activated, and I'm going to breathe in some calm to that red for the sympathetic part, which is pretty everywhere in the middle of the spine. And I'm going to imagine that red and just have it to calm down a little bit. Just have it just to decrease in intensity. I don't want it to go away. I need it, but I just don't want it to be that intense. So there's a little breathing exercise that we can do, just bringing your consciousness to the equation here, which is critical. I'm going to talk next time about how your consciousness, your mind, is the thing that can create its own stress, even if the body is in perfect shape. Right now, we can start to pay attention to the body and say, well, my body's not in perfect shape. How do I expect my mind to be able to overcome all this? It's very distracted by all the things that are going on in the body. So again, your diet, your inflammation, your level of inflammation, your level of your intestine, your guts. If you're eating a bunch of partially hydrogenated vegetable oil that's blocking your absorption, these are all problems. If you don't get enough minerals, we could go on and on and on about all these things, right? And this is why I've done a year-long wellness program. Please understand this. This is why I've done a year-long wellness program. Because you can't cover all the bases in one little class. You can't cover all the bases in one set of supplements. This requires a little bit more effort than that. And it's so rewarding. If those of you who have been following with me on this, you know what I'm talking about. Any one moment within these months that we've been doing this, I've had several moments, even for myself, and I'm the one putting this thing together, that I've had like, oh my gosh, that was worth the whole year's effort just to get to that point, just to realize that about my body, or just to experience that change in my body. What a fabulous way to have a few minutes a day that I'm conducting something toward my wellness. That's the whole idea here. This is a long-term project. Wellness is never an okay. I'm not going to do my wellness thing. Wellness is it. I can never give up on wellness. I have to do wellness, and so these are just some more tools that we can do to help with the nervous system. So parasympathetic, sympathetic, calming, stimulating. We need to learn how to engage in those two systems. We can use essential oils. We can use breathing. But we have to engage this into, we use massage. We got to get all that going on. And so all these things contribute. So one day at a time in terms of our wellness plans. Tomorrow or next video, I'm going to cover the way the brain works on the inside just a little bit, and it can create its own stress. So we'll talk about some tools to calm that down. Happy wellness.